Okay, hi Dharma friends. It's good to be talking to you all via a video. It's probably as close to interactive dialogue as we can get here at this point with the technology being what it is. A couple days ago, August 8th, I wrote a post preparatory to my video on how to become a person of Shinjin, and I asked everybody who wanted to tell me how serious each one is about making this be your last lifetime as a non-Buddha stuck in samsaric existence. And I used a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the most serious. And I encouraged everybody to answer who wanted to, and any answer was okay. If you're a 1 and you're just casually interested in what we're talking about here, that's fine. If you're a flaming 10 and this is absolutely at the very center of your life, and you're on this like a dog on a bone, really, and nothing else is going to make you happy until you figure this question out, how to become a Buddha, that's great too. And what I'm going to try to do is actually, on my other screen here, I have everybody's responses, and I'm going to try to get through every one. And if I don't get through every one and I run out of time, I'll start another video just with everybody else who I didn't get to. But I'll do my best. But before I do that, I got to tell you guys a funny story. Okay, we're talking about a very serious subject, but I also have a funny sense of humor, as I'm sure many of you people do also. But I got a funny New York sense of humor, so I don't know, it's a little bit twisted. So anyway, thank you everybody who sent me some nice greetings or whatever it was, or likes, or hearts, or floating candy canes about the announcement that came up about me now being in a relationship. And I got to be honest with you guys, you all know, or most of you know, that I'm so new to Facebook. I just got on it, 6 months ago, and as an alternate venue for sharing the Dharma. And Rick wasn't so sure it was a good idea back then, giving him a little poke in the ribs. But now he's probably the biggest enthusiast. He's a big enthusiast, and it's been an amazing place for him to really stretch his wings and use all his gifts and talents, his poetry writing ability, his music ability, to just showcase what's really deep in his heart, and he just publishes such wonderful things. But we really, at least I didn't know anything about Buddhism. I think Rick was already on, probably everybody in the world but me. And so I had this thing happening that was going on, and you all know I'm working hard to start a business because I'm pretty much out of money after burning through my life savings in retirement, dealing with my kidney disease and my transplant and the aftermath, blah blah blah. And I decided to do a business that would work for me on Facebook, that I could do even if I was not feeling well and didn't feel like I could go out or whatever. So I knew nothing about the whole vehicle of Facebook, and I'm learning little by little. So when I started my business, I chose a business that was really good for working on Facebook, where you could meet people, do your marketing, find your ideal prospect, just by using Facebook. That I'm learning from a business mentor how to do that right now. And so here's what I've been finding. This is hilarious. So my ideal customer, they tell you to make like a mental picture of your ideal customer. And actually for this business, my ideal customer would be a woman, because most of the products that this business offers are much more oriented to how a woman thinks than a man thinks. That's not a sexist thing, it's just true. Women tend to be more interested in domestic issues than the men. That's just the way it is. So my ideal prospect is a woman, and then I have some other qualifications too. So here's what's happening, okay? So my Facebook page, as I filled it out, not for talking to you guys, but to start in this business, it was totally empty, really. And so I had to fill in all the different things to describe me, and I had to put in that I was single, okay? So here I am, trying to develop a business, doing prospecting, marketing, whatever, and, picture me in front, that's fine. But, it says right there, I'm a single guy, which is absolutely true. And so I was getting these two responses that I just didn't like. And the one response was I was getting a lot of women who responded to me who totally inappropriate for any business relationship, but I could tell when they sent me whatever they were sending me, they were looking for sugar daddies. They were looking for men just to kind of pay their way in life. And it was kind of bizarre and funny, too, to find this happening. So I didn't want those kind of responses, okay? And the second thing I got, which was even more annoying and disturbing to me as a guy trying to build a business and do marketing, was I had a lot of women who, looked like they were a perfect fit for what I was doing, who literally wouldn't respond to my my attempts to market to them. They literally wouldn't answer if I posted to them. They acted like I was a guy at a bar trying to pick up a girl, and they didn't want to be picked up by me, and they thought I was like some kind of lounge lizard or something. Absolutely not my intent with anybody, believe me. Too busy to get involved with anybody at that level right now. And so these things were starting to annoy me, particularly getting rejected by people who would be great candidates for what I sell, what I offer. And so I realized that these crazy responses were all coming because my Facebook profile says I'm single. So what I finally decided to do yesterday was kind of get myself out of hot water by changing it to saying I'm in a relationship. So really, for everybody who's so kind as to give me a little clap or you go, dude, whatever, very kind thing to do. I really appreciate that people like me enough to want to say those things. But my relationship right now, I got to tell you, the person I'm involved with exclusively these days is Amita Buddha. Okay, so that's the truth. But thank you all for the congratulations anyway, and that's my funny story. Okay, so now let me get serious and start to go through some of the responses here. And again, I hope I'll get through every one. And some of what I say for one person is just as applicable to another, okay? And again, like I said in all my posts here, which Tim Croft made it so easy because he wrote something that was so archetypal and expressed so many of the objections that people have had through the centuries to Shinjin Buddhism, that I used him as the archetype for a lot more people than him. And I'm very grateful for him, as I said many times, for asking honest questions in a straightforward way, because more than anything else, that's what I'm looking for in order to have a Dharma dialogue with somebody. And again, I'll say it again, and Tim knows I mean it, and I want everybody to mean it. I do not ever, I mean ever, okay, and I'll talk to the people who friend me the most, okay, and express their gratitude the most for the things that I say, the things that I write. People like Dave Krumke and Rodrigo, okay. I don't ever want anybody, I couldn't be more serious here, to ever believe anything I say just because it comes out of my mouth and I have a good reputation in your eyes. That's terrible. I don't want anybody to believe anything I say, and I don't want you to believe anything my good friend Josho Adrian says. I don't want you to believe anything Rick says, or Camille, or Aiken Kobai Sensei. Don't believe it. Don't believe it. Don't believe it. Okay? It's very important. I don't want you to believe anything you hear that Shakyamuni Buddha ever said. Now, this is a full court press, okay, on the Kalama Sutra, which is not a provisional teaching. Okay? It's not just for times that are good. It's not just for the first age of the Dharma. It's not good for the second age of the Dharma. more important even in the age of corrupt Dharma. Shakyamuni says, don't believe a word anybody says, not even me. But here's what you need to do. And he was dead serious about it, and I'm dead serious too. Okay, this is universal teaching for the good ages of the Dharma and for the bad ages of the Dharma even more. Okay, you listen to the teacher, anyone you want to pick, okay? And Shakyamuni says, you listen to him with your mind, with your intellect, and you make sure you do due diligence on whatever he's teaching, whatever he's saying, okay? You don't believe a word of it, but you owe it to yourself, you owe it to the teacher, that if he says anything, you're going to make sure you understand it. Okay? I have all kinds of problems with people, okay? And so does Josho and Aiken for 40 or 50 years of his career, and Shinrin and Renyo too. All of us, okay? Because people don't do due diligence in listening, okay? And the one thing I'm asking for out of Tim and everybody else who's in the questioning group, and I'm so glad you're all speaking up, is that you pull on my leg, you ask me again and again, you make sure you understand not kind of what I'm saying, which is one of the responses Tim had at one point. I kind of think I understand. Yeah, that's not good enough, Tim. Okay, not good enough for anybody. Okay, if you're going to listen to me at all, you make sure you understand completely. Okay, that you understand intellectually what I'm teaching, or Josho, or Rick, or Camille, or anybody. You understand it intellectually as well as they do. Okay, that is absolutely essential, and it is the first half of listening deeply, which is the only practice for people who are on the path of Shin Buddhism. Okay? Don't ask it, don't understand the question, not sure exactly what I meant. You bug me. You bug me privately, you bug me publicly. Actually, I'd rather you bug me publicly, because if you have a question, I guarantee you, with 500 people in this conversation right now, there's 10 other people who have the exact same question. And like Master Renyo said, speak up, speak up. I don't care what you're thinking. Just speak up so I can give you a straightforward answer, okay? And then you can decide for yourself which way you want to go in life. So that's really, really important, okay? And then nobody has the opportunity, which I've gotten too much of, and so is Josho, and so is Aiken, for that matter, for people to slander us and say that we're saying crazy stuff. And Shinrin and Renyo were slandered the same way. People who had no interest in listening to them seriously just say the most outrageous things. Okay, how bad was their slander? Well, a bunch of their friends were executed, okay, and they themselves were tried and convicted as criminals. Okay, Honen, Master Honen, Shinrin's teacher, and Master Shinrin, and sent with names that are criminal names in the Japanese system to the outer ends of the island of Japan. Okay, so believe me, this is not a joke. Okay, there's no joke in here. Okay, funny is funny, but it doesn't get more serious than this. Okay, so let me get into the answers to the questions people had, and I may jumble a couple together, but let's see. We have Conan. Okay, he has a prefix as Japanese name, but I basically call people by their regular name. You probably noticed. Conan, he says, I'm not a 10, I'm a 9. I'm a 9 because I failed as a Buddhist, and I know Buddhahood is not in my grasp. I'm a 9 because life is suffering. I have various health problems. I have a mother who's on her last legs. life has been a battle for as long as I can remember. I want out. I cannot even imagine that I've done this over and over and over again. I don't want to imagine that. It's frightening. I'm a 9 because I recognize deeply how the world is like a dream, often a nightmare. Born alone, die alone, nothing in between has lasting meaning. I'm a 9 because I'm here in this group, listening to everything, trying to listen deeply. I'm a 9 because I'm a Pure Land Buddhist, okay, who just found out Amida is a real Buddha and not a metaphor. The irony of chanting Nembutsu for years, but being shocked to find out that Amida is real. Not that I didn't believe Amida was real, but people who testify to this is something I've never encountered. Okay? Amida has gone from being some transcendental, metaphorical type Buddha to a real, living Buddha. I have had the belief, the faith, that Amida is an actual Buddha, but the damage has been done over the years by those who deny this. I'm still a little unsure of going inside and actually talking to Amida. I never heard of this in any scripture. Is that really a Shin teaching of Shinrin? If it wasn't a Shin teaching of Shinrin, okay, Eigen Kobai would have interrupted me about this a long time ago, okay? The first-hand experience of Amida as a real, living Buddha who you can have communion with, and you're supposed to be having communion with, and not solving this as some goofball mental puzzle. You are a bamboo. Conan, I am a bamboo. Okay? Rick, brilliant a man as he is, okay? He's a bamboo. We had teachers teaching us who were destroying us intellectually, rather than encouraging us to recognize that Amida is a real Buddha, not a metaphor in any sense. He's a transcendental Buddha, the greatest of all the transcendental Buddhas, the greatest of all the Nirmanakaya Buddhas, okay, and a direct manifestation of the Dharmakaya, of the infinite, unknowable, inconceivable Buddha nature that pervades and infuses everything in this universe and everything other, okay? That's who Amida Buddha is. He became that way 55 billion years ago. He literally appeared to every single person who was there with Shakyamuni that day at Vulture Peak. Okay. Honen himself declared that he was there as a bodhisattva that day, and he elected to stay a bodhisattva and come back here twice as a bodhisattva to help the rest of us. And so he was born, when he came back and was born again the first time, another birth here, and then he went to the Pure Land again, and then he chose to come back and do the bodhisattva work, taking birth here again, not even knowing who he was and having to crawl his way, back from a place of total existential confusion and find the platinum Dharma thread as he examined all the documents hidden in the libraries, okay? And he said, finally, and Master Shinrin writes this down, and it's in the hymns of the Pure Land Masters, that Conan, I'm sorry, not Conan, Master Honen, let him know this. It's right there in the hymns of the Pure Land Master in the chapter on Honen. So you can understand that I have a bug up my nose about any teacher who teaches otherwise, because they almost destroyed me before I could find Amida Buddha. They almost destroyed Rick. Got a bunch of people here who are getting totally confused. You know, and one of my missions in life is to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, and to point out people who are telling lies and entering their own divergences. The Tanisha is all about that, okay? And Joshua Adrian and I, and now Rick and now Camille, when we see that stuff going on, we do the best we can to expose it, to name the names, and tell exactly what these people are wrong. And no, we're not hateful in the least. I don't wish any of them well. What I wish is they just wouldn't infect the minds of other people with these terrible divergences. Okay? But he says, I'll keep going on with him. He says, I'm a 9 because I know I have no other option but to trust myself to Amida. And I know I'm a 9 because I believe Buddha is free from the cycle we are stuck in. Absolutely. A true Buddha is free. They're not strapped to the terrible karmic wheel of birth and death. You're absolutely right about that, Conan. Okay? I want that. Not just for me, Conan says, but so I can help others. Ding, 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 ding. Conan gets the prize. He says, I'm a 9 for that reason. Not sure, he finishes up. Maybe I'm a 10. Or at least I'm right up to 10. I'm going to be honest with you, Conan, okay? In some of the other stuff you said, you expressed honestly and bravely that you still struggle with some doubt. But that thing you just read here, and I just read back, that's a man who's a 10. He just wants to become a Buddha, and for all the right reasons, you know. And I so relate to this because what you're saying is you want to become a Buddha so you can help people, and not just for yourself. And I got to tell you, you know, after my daughter died, the biggest thing in the world for me was really the Tanisho, which is chapters 4 through 6, and you guys can go read it. And Conan, I told you to read the Tanisho again. It's several ideas in mind for you, but that was surely one of them. Okay, you know, Shinjin is writing, and he says, when it comes to my parents, there's not a thing I can do about helping them. You know, and I was saying the same thing. You know, through my, you know, my endless tears, really. When it comes to my beloved daughter, I couldn't help her enough. And there's nothing I can do now to help her. But my deal is, I don't want to become a great bodhisattva and do countless tasks on the path of the sages and, you know, climb up that mountain of enlightenment. I'm done with that. I don't care about that. I'm so serious when I say to people, and they're shocked when I say it, and I say it to shock them. I don't want to be a Buddhist. I don't give a hoot about being a Buddhist. I really, really don't. I want to be a Buddha. I'm done. I'm ready to be done. Okay? I don't want to come back here as a non-Buddha ever again. Okay? I'd rather poke my eyes out with a stick. Really. Okay? That's how serious this thing is to me. Okay? And I don't have to put on airs to talk about it that way. Okay? I walked through that fire, and without the grace of Amida, I never would have walked out. Never. Okay? So, from my vantage point, of course I don't see with the eyes of a Buddha. My eyes are, you know, a bamboo who's called to be a teacher, so I see dimly still, but absolutely on the money what you said. You know, I want to become a Buddha as soon as possible, okay, so that I can go find my daughter wherever she is And in the beginning, I really was afraid where she might be. I had to read more into Master Shinjin's writings to come to certainty about the fact that she had made it to the Pure Land somehow. And then I started to get all sorts of signs and everything else, and it was overwhelming to me. I can talk about that another time. But that's where I was at, and Conan, brother, as far as I can see, that's where you're at as well. Okay? And you're doing exactly the right thing. You're laying it all on the line. You're opening your heart. Okay? You're making it easy for me to serve you as a teacher. And, it's one of the 5 conditions of birth. You have to have a good teacher. Just got to have one. Okay? May not be a living teacher, maybe somebody who lived before, but you need a good teacher, and you need to be able to latch on and work with this teacher somehow, and he's going to be a vehicle for transmission. Now, you don't put the teacher on a pedestal. Never, never. And Master Render's got a follow-up later just about that. The teacher's not the idea here, okay? You don't put this guy or this gal on a pedestal. They're there to do a job because they have a vocational calling from a meter, and I can't even tell you what a privilege it is to fulfill that calling, okay? Okay, so, if you're not a 10, brother, you're right up around to 10. Okay, let me go on to the next person. So next is Richard Lang, who writes, okay, I'm a 10 for wanting to go to the Pure Land and become a Buddha, but I'm still maybe an 8 out of 10 when it comes to believing there is a Pure Land, and the same for me believing in rebirth repeatedly in samsara and under other fundamental truths about Buddhism. So when I unpack that wanting to be a Buddha, there's just a lot of other things creeping out where faith is still shaky. I've become to so many teachings, I've become exposed, Richard says, to so many teachings that they all fight for attention. I'm sure about the first and second noble truths, which are self-evident, and about the second pillar of Shin, that I'm a clueless bamboo in a world of clueless bamboos. But your videos are great, Paul. I could listen to you all day. Thank you, I appreciate. So I'll be reserving a box seat for the next, which we're in right now. Okay. So, Richard, like I do my best all the time to do this. Again, I talk as honestly as I can, because your future at the end of this life depends on hearing somebody give you a no bullshit response ever. Okay, that's what I do my best to do that, and so I'm going to answer you. Master Shinjin makes it abundantly clear, and so does Master Render. They found foundational thoughts for them, that the one enemy you have on your journey is really doubt. Doubt is the great enemy of Shinjin. And as long as I talked about one of my other buddies the other day, and the fact that he told me 99% faith, just a little doubt sometimes, and I said to him, it didn't make him happy either, you can't be a person of Shinjin if you have even a scintilla of doubt. Okay, because the very nature of the gift is that when you get the gift of Shinjin, it is the faith, mind, consciousness of Amida Buddha. It's nothing you or I could ever produce in ourselves. It is totally and completely a gift. So if you have doubt still, or you have some faith and some doubt, okay, the honest and the noble and the good thing to do is just to stand up and say what's going on. And if part of the reason for it is that, like me, like Rick, okay, you come from a diverse background in the West, and we are all so very educated in a rational left brain way, and we have, the Google machine, which makes each and every one of us more of a genius in terms of intellectual understanding than anybody ever could be back then. Okay, because we can look at a zillion options. We can look at a zillion of them in Buddhism, or 84,000, whatever you want to make it. It's, a number means a whole lot. And we can look at 100 zillion of them everywhere else. Okay? And that is a blessing when it comes to making smartphones and computers, because we're that smart. But as you can see, Richard, and everybody else can see along with Richard, when it comes to completing your journey, it's a terrible curse. And you guys have heard me talk about this, hundreds of times probably by now. You've been hanging around me long enough. Okay? And it makes your journey so much harder. And you've heard me say, I have a guy in this Sangha, and I'll call him Joe, because he doesn't want to make his name and his part of his life public. That's fine. I totally respect that. And Joe was about 5 years ago, he was part of our Shinjin Buddhism group on Yahoo before I was in this thing on Facebook. And he said very little. He said almost nothing. And, I happened to be talking with Adrian about this guy. And Adrian says to me, yeah, this guy was asking me questions too, and I was doing my best to give him good answers. But, for some reason, nothing was working here. And that happens. Your karma's just not right, for whatever reason. And then I said, well, Adrian, what happened is, when I started this Facebook thing, this guy Joe, he joined very quickly. He was one of the early joiners. It was good to have him. I recognized him. We hadn't really talked much at all. So he joins and he's quiet, like most people are quiet. Always, most people are quiet. And that's why, both Renu and me are, please, come together once a month specifically to talk about your faith and your doubt. And also the faith and doubt of others. That was his perfect statement. It's actually the front piece of our the Shinjin Buddhism group. Put that up on the front of the door. Okay. And now all of a sudden this guy contacts me here, Joe. He says, "Listen, I have a question I'd like to ask you. Would you mind giving me some private time?" And I got to tell you, when somebody who's been silent gets to that point, that's a monumental leap of growth. Just to get to that point, where he's not going to hold his questions, he's not going to withhold the truth from me of what's going on, what he's thinking about, what he's wondering about, where he has doubts, where he doesn't. I said, it makes me so happy when someone actually contacts me with that kind of request, publicly or privately, I don't care. I said, absolutely, let's get out our calendars and we'll book something, all right? And we did, and if I remember right, we actually did it right here on Facebook with their video chat function, but maybe we went to Skype, because sometimes I have, he's in a different part of the world than me, so maybe we actually did it on Skype. I can't remember. But anyway, we get together, appointed time, we're going to spend 15 minutes, half hour, whatever. And he says, Paul, he says, and he's a serious guy. He says, I'm studying as best as I can. He says, really. And I'm reading these things in the sutras or the literature, and here it says this, and over there it says that, and I can't reconcile these things. They don't seem reconcilable to me. And, the truth of the matter is that the Buddha, Shakyamuni, wrote a lot of stuff like that, where it sounds like he's talking out both sides of his mouth. And he's not talking out both sides of his mouth. He's using skillful means, because he knows that what one person needs and what another person needs, could be exactly the opposite. to come out of the burning building, like it says in the Lotus Sutta. He's trying to entice some children out of this burning building. That's what the Buddha's trying to do. And they're all different. So he's got to offer each of them the kind of a toy or a knick-knack that's going to appeal to each one to get them to come out of the burning building so they don't die in the fire. And the Buddha does a lot of that, and he says that he does a lot of that. Okay? So it's not an anomaly that you caught something reading the sutras or reading the teachers of different masters from different schools, picking out little bits of the Dharma from one place, little bits from another, and so he's at this place, And what I said to Joe was this. I said, look, here, and I knew, now this is what I knew. Joe was never going to figure this thing out using his rational mind. As Rick said the other day, the rational mind does not work here. Works for designing a computer, works for being a brain surgeon, works for learning to drive a stick shift, all those rational type things. Doesn't work for spiritual things. Spiritual things are learned trans-rationally, at a level of knowing above and beyond anything that the rational mind could offer. So I says to Joe, here's what I want you to do. And I'm pretty sure this is what I said to him. But I said, I just want you to kind of put aside your puzzle, okay? What do they call that? Rubik's Cube? Messing around. I was never good at that, by the way. I want you to put that thing aside and just spend the next 7 days doing no rational thinking. Okay, just for a week. And I just want you to be with the Amida Buddha. And if nothing happens, nothing happens. And I can't remember anymore whether we had to do this for one more week or that week was enough. But it was definitely within 2 weeks, I remember. And Joe says to me, he writes me, and he says, I'm done. I've got to meet a Shinjin now. Because the hardest problem he had, the hardest problem we all have in this modern age, is we're too much addicted to the rational mind and what it can do, and even to our feelings and what they can do for us. Because again, this thing we're talking about is not of the left brain mind, it's not of the right brain mind, it's of the mind that's above all that. This is human stuff. The trans-rational stuff is not human stuff. It's the intervention that comes to us when we give up on the human stuff. When we really, literally stop trying to figure it out. Okay? And I've had the same thing happen with Ray, who I love dearly, but really I felt like I had to club him with like a baby seal sometime, because he just was locked and loaded with his own thoughts that came out of his own life, and he just couldn't stop. He was like a hamster in a treadmill. He literally couldn't stop. And we're trying to get from here to there for 5 long years. And I actually had to shut him out of the Sangha a couple of times, because he was so obsessed with the story that emerged from his own childhood. Okay? But then finally he says, I'm absolutely ready to give up. Just tell me what to do, Paul. And I had great respect for Ray, even when he was just being the most insufferable guy, because I knew he had actually been dedicating his whole life, to the path. Okay? And trying to crack the code, whatever you want to call it. So I knew there was like a shining warrior heart inside this guy that was on this like a dog on a bone for many, many years. But I also knew his ego self mind, his ego self consciousness was just killing him here. It was hard to watch as he did it over and over again. Okay? But he was doing it. And so he kept coming back, I kept giving him a chance and another. And, finally he got to the point where he was absolutely a 10. And he really was a 10. And he says, you know what, he said exactly like, who is it over here? Conan. He really was finally a 10, where he wanted to become a Buddha. He knew he didn't have the right stuff. It took him 5 years to get that. I mean, really, And I says, okay, just take all your religious stuff, dump it in a box or something, and shove it in a closet, tape it up and put it in the basement, whatever. Just make that you can't get to it. Okay? And I think it was a week or so, and all of a sudden I hear from him, and he'll correct me if I got the timing off. But again, I got so many stories in my head from 12 years of doing this, And he emails me and he says, Amita gave me his Shinjin. Same idea, same story. Okay? So, who am I talking to now? Richard Lang. To Richard and everybody else who's in Richard's place, and they got a head full of noodles. Who said that? Was that Richard's metaphor? It made me chuckle. Okay? I feel very compassionate at the same time. And I was there for 2 years until I blew off all these other teachers and all these other teachings. And, I didn't need Aiken to tell me much. I just needed to know, is Amita a real Buddha, Pure Land a real place? And he said, yes. Really, that's the one thing I learned from Aiken. I mean, I love Aiken, I respect Aiken. His book is absolutely stunning to me when I read it, because I said, this is the only guy I ever heard talk like Shinjin. The only guy. I'd never heard another guy talk like Shinjin. Now, there are a couple others out there. Josho Adrian was fortunate enough to find one early on as he was just transitioning from Zen to Shin. Okay, and he found one or two that were like, like that platinum thread, like Aiken was for me. He was that platinum thread. But just about everything else I ever learned, once I got that straight and I got the gift, I learned directly from Amita Buddha. I just learned it directly from him. Okay? I was ready to be taught, and he was just right there pouring it into my brain, pouring it into my heart. I mean, that's what it's been in my life. And I know there are others here that since they got the gift, that's what it's been in their life. I'm not trying to put her on a pedestal either, but Camille's story. I was her Dharma mentor, and I still am. But, Rick and I watched literally with our jaws dropping. We couldn't believe what was happening to this woman at the speed of light. She's just so open, and she buzzed through the collected works of Shinjin. She buzzed through the works of Renu. And as soon as she read anything, she integrated it. I'm sitting there slack-jawed, and so is Rick. It's wonderful to see, and it's miraculous to me, and that's what happens when a person is totally ready. And then they just get Shinjin. Total gift. And now it's like, you see these things, stories sometime about a baby. I saw one on the Facebook. This little baby had to be about 1 or 2 years old, probably about closer to 1. And, he had a totally disabling eye problem. And he could really barely see shapes. You know, he was really functionally blind. And, you know, they do a lot of work, and, you know, this is where the ego self-consciousness can be a real help. You know, the best scientists, opticians, ophthalmologists, you know, they figure out how to make this kid a pair of glasses. And it shows the moment where they take these little funny, you know, Mr. Magoo glasses, and they put this on, they put these glasses on the kid's head for the very first time. And he's like this for a minute. And then all of a sudden, it's like the world is in front of him, starting with Mom, you know. It changes his life forever, just to be able to see. And I gotta say, you know, been there, done that. And so many people here have. And like I said today again, being totally annoying and provocative, that's what happens to people who receive Shinjin. They all become like Dave. Really, they all become like karma. They all become like Rick. They all become like Ray. That's just what happens. They don't sign the same because they're trying to make a go of a cult, okay? It's just when you receive Shinjin, you're like that baby who's getting these first pair of glasses and can finally see his mommy and his daddy. His perfect parents, his perfect mother, his perfect father. It's an amazing thing. Tim, I can't wait till it happens for you and all you guys, okay? And it is going to happen for you. The only question is when. Seriously. Every single one of you guys, gals, whoever's listening, it's going to happen, because the moment Amida took control over his Pure Land, and I'm saying this with authority, okay? I'm not like kinda, sorta, maybe, woulda, coulda, shoulda. No, I'm talking to you with as much certainty as Shinjin would talk to you. Really. Okay? And there's plenty of places where I'm not sure of something. I'll tell you it's above my pay grade, or I don't quite get it, or I have thoughts, but I don't have sureness about it. But I'm looking at you all. Every single one of you. Okay? Not just the people here, 500 people who get this thing because they're members of the group, but the untold thousands who are getting it virally because they're on someone else's timeline. Every single one of you guys, every single one of you gals, I'm telling you, I don't care what your teacher says. I don't care how nice the robes are that he wears. You know, you can put robes on a monkey, really. Doesn't mean anything, okay? But if you hear the heart and the mind of that priest, like you can hear the heart and the mind of Joshua Adrian or Aiken Kobai, both priests in the Hwanji, you know, that's authority. That's the right to bear witness. Not the priest, not the robes, but the man or the woman who's wearing them. And it's unmistakable. You just know when you're listening to somebody. Is this person the real goods? Do they have the real gift given only by Amida or not? Okay? And that's the only reason people ever stay with me, because you all know I'll say tough stuff when I feel it's my duty and responsibility. I won't hold back a word. You know, I'll put it, you know, like a sandwich, you know, a nice piece of tofu or whatever you like to eat, you know, on a couple slices of bread to make it palatable, but not going to hold back. Okay? Adrian, not holding back. Aiken, 40, 50 years, not holding back. Paid an enormous price in his own career for speaking boldly and loud again and again and again. Okay? I'm telling you. They exiled him. He was being the inner circle of advisors to the Manchu, the head, and by birth.
A descendant of Shinjin. That's how the Hwanji and the Nishi works. And he kept talking against all these divergences. And so they finally basically sent him to Siberia. They ruined his career. Okay?
But I heard him say, I heard him say to me, you know, I'll quit before I'll kowtow. Tremendous respect for that. Okay, tremendous respect. Same thing Shinjin said. Same thing Honan said. Same things that the guys who were executed said. You know, I'll bow my neck for the sword, or whatever you're going to do. You know, I'll walk off the cliff if you're going to push me off the cliff. But you know, I'm a person of Shinjin, and I've said that before. You know, there is nothing anybody can say to me or do to me that's going to make me recant. Sorry, not going to happen. Okay, so that's what Richard is saying, and I was going to say, yes, because you have these foundational doubts, and it's so good that you're saying it, you sound to me like an 8 out of 10 kind of a person. It's about right, okay? And we don't have to get this exact, but your problem now is you have to go through the noodles, the stuffing. It's filling your brain. And believe me, been there, done that for a long time. And you have to sit. Absolutely, you don't have to sit in my presence, okay? You got to take this home, brother. You have to sit in Amida's presence, as I've been telling everybody. If you're spending an hour a day on your Dharma time, whatever that is, okay, you give 45 of those minutes directly to Amida Buddha. You don't use all your books, all your understandings, all the paths you've learned about. You put all that stuff outside the door when you're going into your temple inside. You're going into your holy spot, which is where your Buddha nature lives forever. Okay? You leave your shoes outside the door. You put all your ego self-consciousness away. Okay? And you come naked. And you sit there naked with Amida. And if you feel like saying Nembutsu, even though you're not grateful yet because you haven't delivered yourself from your doubts, then don't say Nembutsu. You don't have to say Nembutsu. You just sit there and you say whatever you want, or you say nothing. But you're spending that time with Amida himself. Okay? You don't see him visually. I don't see him visually either. You see him in whatever way you see him. You hear him in whatever way you hear him. You feel him in whatever way you feel him. Everybody is different in the way they will spiritually perceive, okay, their own time with Amida. Okay? If you just want to tell him and say the same thing you said to me, you know, my head's full of noodles, I got too much stuff going on in here, I can't separate the wheat from the chaff, I just want to become a Buddha. Please, Amida, help me. Okay? You spend a half hour in Amida's presence saying that every day of your life. You spend 15 minutes every day of your life. I guarantee you, Amida's not going to leave you high and dry. I guarantee you. He may have to show you stuff that's hidden in your unconscious that you would never see by yourself. That's good. Because that's what's keeping you from entrusting yourself right now. And he'll do it. And he'll do it in a way that's going to be sweet, gentle, as well as powerful and precise. Okay, brothers? So I'm just saying that to you and to everybody who's sitting there at the 7, 8 level, and doesn't seem to know what to do. You don't know what to do. That's good. That's really, really, you are so far up the path, okay? You are so far, you've gone so far in the ripening of your karma, in the maturation. You have no idea how many lifetimes it takes to get to this place. Okay, this is a process that's been iterating for more lifetimes than you can imagine. As Master Enya reminds us in his amazing letters. And finally it's brought to this point where you're almost right. And where do you get the grace to become ripe, so ripe that you're ready to just fall off the tree into Amita's hands? Where do you get the grace? You get it from you? No, of course not. Get it from me? No, not from me. You're going to get it from Adrian or Aiken? No. You're going to get it from your beads? No. Your books? No. Your rational mind, the left brain or the right brain? No, you're not going to get it from any of those places. You're going to get it from Amida himself. 15 minutes a day. You do that, you promise me you're going to do that for a year. Make a deal, make a promise. Promise me, promise all your Dharma friends here. I'm going to give this a solid year, and I won't even think about quitting until I've given it a solid year. What's today? August 10th? Okay, so you give it till August 10th, 2017. All of you guys. I'm talking to every single one of you. Tim and everybody else. Okay? And then come back to me and tell me what's going on there. Okay? Because I'm telling you, if you're so far along that you're willing to do that, okay? No excuses, no bullshit, no ifs, ands, or buts, no reason why it's inconvenient or you don't feel like doing it. I mean, if that's how you feel right now, I'm totally okay with it. But I can't really promise you anything is going to happen to move you further along than you are right now. But you put in the work of this one practice of listening deeply. First with the head, like I said before, to understand what the teaching really is. Not my teaching. Not even Shinrin's teaching. Not even Shakyamuni's teaching. But Amida's own teaching. Okay? So you become his disciple for a year. Solid year. No excuses, no ifs, ands, or buts. No chasing some other butterfly. Okay? And then let me know how you're doing. Let the whole sangha know. Or write me privately. Okay? And once again, share your faiths, share your doubt. You'll see that you're either going to be a person of Shinjin already, or your mental landscape, with whatever obstacles you have, is going to be so much cleared out. Okay? There's going to be very little left to work out. Okay? Just like I had very little left to work out with Aiken. Need a little tweak, intellectual tweak, fix a little misunderstanding, easy, easy, easy. Whatever your obstacles might be, though, it's just being in Amida's presence is where you will find the grace to dissolve your obstacles. Okay? Okay, and so now we have other people's replying. Conan then says, after Richard Lang spoke, he says, exactly the same for me. So many teachings, truths, etc. going round in my head. So difficult to empty the cup. And Richard says, I thought I was the only one. How common is that? I'm the only dummy here, right? No. Fact is, we're all dummy. We're all bamboo. And the more deeply we understand that, and this is not a negative thing to say, it's a spiritual maturation thing to say. Okay? The closer we get to being absolutely ready. Okay? And then Conan says, I'm sorry, Richard Lang responds to actually what he just says, I thought I was the only one. And then he says, well, not really. One of the good things about this sangha is finding others traveling a path that has many points of contact with my own. And then Conan says, I've devoured many of the planet's religions. My mind is like a bowl of spaghetti. That's that. Good one, Conan. That's where that metaphor just, got to me and became stuck in it. I'm always looking for a good metaphor, Okay. And, then Conan continues, I'm here because none of that makes sense. Now he's talking about other Western religions more, where there is a divine creator, there's God-centered religion, whether it's Judaism, Islam, Christianity, those are the three big ones in the West. They're all theocentric. And then there's other God-centered religions. Okay? And so Conan says, but I'm here because none of that makes sense. They all share a common theme of some divine creator who we must appease. Buddha alone stands out and speaks as one who knows this reality. And so I am back here where our journey began in this life. And then Richard says, yes, we have to let the other teachings go. Empty the cup, as Paul keeps saying, and I do keep saying it. And that's work for most people. The work of letting go is work. The work of leaving your shoes outside the door, coming into the sacred temple where Amida dwells in your heart, in your Buddha heart. That's work, to simply let go of your grasping. And just say, I'm just going to let go. I just can't figure this thing out. Okay? And then Richard says, yes, we have to let go of the other teachings, empty the cup, as Paul keeps saying. And Paul does keep saying that. Okay? Because I know it's the truth. I speak to you as somebody who knows this is the truth. I don't think it's the truth. Okay? And when I say let go of your teachings, I'm talking to Buddhists here, and even people who consider themselves Shin Buddhists here, and who've been stuck on what their teacher says. You're stuck on what your teacher says. You're missing the boat. I don't care who your teacher is. If you're stuck on what Adrian says, who I have the utmost admiration for, okay, I just say you're making a big mistake. Who cares, really, what Adrian says? Honestly, who cares what I say? Who cares what Aiken says? The only one who matters is Amida. And so if you care what he says and not what anybody else says, he will become your teacher, which is exactly what you need. I don't care who you are. I don't care how famous you think your teachers are. I can guarantee you, and he can speak up if he thinks I'm speaking wrong. Aiken is in this room with us, always. He speaks up here, always, whatever he wants to say. If you asked him, Aiken, do you want me to listen to you, or do you want me to listen to Amida? I know what Aiken's going to say. Listen to Amida. And then if I can help a little by something I say in one of my books, that's great. But the one you want to listen to is Amida. I know that's what he's going to say. Okay, let me keep going. So now Rodrigo speaks up. He says, okay, Paul, I am a 10 because Shinjin is the meaning of my life and nothing else matters to me. But, he says, I have a lot of blind passions. Thanks for everything. I'll wait for the next video. So now, Rodrigo, my friend, okay, here's what I'm going to say to you. When the monk, in the largest sutra, when the monk Dharmakara finally decided that he was going to be a Buddha and he was making his vows, and he was declaring his purpose and intent, and he grew greater and greater as a bodhisattva as he took many incarnations over countless ages, and each one dedicated solely to one thing, which is making everybody have an easy way to become a Buddha. Everybody. The best of us and the rest of us. And he went out because he got spiritual power as he grew in stature as a bodhisattva, and he visited countless Buddhas, countless Buddha lands, okay, simply by using the power of his advanced mind. And he did more consulting on this topic than anybody ever did before or since. And he actually developed this entirely new way. And you guys hear me sometimes talk about it as Buddhism 2.0. Everything before then was Buddhism 1.0. And this way is so different that it blew the minds of all the other Buddhas. What was he thinking about? What was he thinking about, Rodrigo? He was thinking about you. It was so long ago that it was before the Big Bang, because scientists are now discovering the Big Bang is not an adequate explanation. They are moving from the Big Bang to an expansion, contraction, expansion, contraction model. It took them long enough to get here, okay? A lot of us have known this before because we heard it from the Buddha and it made perfect sense to us, okay? And so now the scientists are catching up a little bit. So seriously, Rodrigo, everything Amida did, he did looking at you, knowing who you are, knowing your blind passions, knowing your weaknesses, knowing that you're a bad Buddhist rather than a good Buddhist. Okay? If you want to say that, I certainly say that about myself. And if you had 1,000,000 years, you couldn't subdue your blind passion. Just couldn't do it. Okay? You're a bad Buddhist, that's all. And knowing that, he declared, and Master Shinjin learned from his teacher, Master Honen, that this thing I'm creating here, this Buddhism 2.0, is actually for the bad Buddhist first. And then also, if you happen to be a sterling individual and you got your stuff under control and your blind passions don't get the best of you, you're allowed to come too. But Rodrigo, I'm serious, brother. Serious as a heart attack. Your blind passions, brother, are your admissions ticket, okay, to this Buddhism 2.0 free concert, okay? So you're confused about that, and you don't have to be confused anymore. It's absolutely your admission ticket. And so I just want you to go to Amida every day, as you've learned to do since we started talking. You asked me, how do I listen deeply? And I taught you. Okay? And I'm happy I taught you, and I'm happy that you're such a good student to learn. And not just you, but other people here. You and Jacob were the two people who were really, asking that question a couple months ago. And I'm happy and honored to be the person who gives you the solid stuff. Okay? And so now I'm going to keep doing that. That's my job, that's my vocation, as well as my privilege and my honor. And say, you got nothing holding you back. You just spend that time with Amida every day, whatever amount of time it is, spend it with him every single day, saying whatever you want to say, asking whatever you want to ask, experiencing his presence, his perfect presence, his total acceptance of you in whatever way he does, in your heart, your mind, okay, in your Buddha nature. And that's it. Just say every day, Amida, Lord Buddha, whatever you want to say, whatever feels good to you. I don't understand how it could be so. I think I'm too crappy a guy to become a Buddha so easily. It seems to me like, too good to be true. Must be a hitch. Somebody must have a bridge to sell me. I live in New York City, so if anyone wants to buy the Brooklyn Bridge, you just email me privately and we'll talk about it. And yeah, even though it seems like all that, Rodrigo, just every day, I entrust myself to you. I entrust my entire karmic destiny to you and your primal vow. Well, the most plain words. I just sit here in your presence, and for these few moments, I experience myself entrusting myself to you. Just for these few moments. Then I get distracted. I go out of my little indoor temple, and I put my shoes back on or whatever, and I'm back in the dirty streets of mundane life. But for these few minutes, everything outside the door, and then whatever I gotta say, whatever I want to say. You want to say Nam Amida Butsu, you feel like saying it, say it. You're not sure if it means thank you yet. You're not sure if it's the Nubutsu of gratitude yet. It's okay, you can still say it. And you feel uncomfortable saying it, then don't say it. Say something else. But just tell the Buddha, tell yourself, in his presence, I entrust myself, I entrust my whole karmic destiny entirely to you, holding nothing back. Holding nothing back. Okay? Shoes outside the door. My own thoughts, my own ideas, even my own ideas that I'm too full of my blind passions, so therefore I can't be. Yeah, you give them to Amida too. Every day you do this. Let me know how it goes. Okay? I think you're there, brother. I really do. I could be wrong, because I'm not a Buddha, and there's something else going on that I don't see. And that does happen, because we're like that iceberg, We got this huge mass, 90% is below the waterline. Those are all the things that are going on in your ego self-consciousness that you're not even aware of, that can be giving you so much trouble when it comes to simply entrusting yourselves. I can't find them, and if I could find them, I couldn't yank them out. You can't find them, and you certainly can't yank them out. Okay? Who can do it? Only one guy can do it. And it's not the smartest guy in the room. It's not Shakyamuni Buddha. He's the smartest guy in the room. This is the smartest guy in the Buddhaverse. This is the smartest guy who's so smart that he created a whole different kind of Buddhism. It's so wonderful that all the Buddhas in the 10 directions, all of them, every single one, praise him and worship him as if they were speaking out of one throat and through one mouth. So that's the guy. That's the place you got to go, and let him straighten it all out, whatever it is. Okay, the Buddha Shakyamuni, definitely smartest guy in the room. The Buddha Amida, most definitely the smartest guy anywhere and everywhere. Okay? So there you go, Rodrigo. I think you're just done. You just put in your little bit of time every day being with the Amida Buddha, and you can also put in a little bit of time studying. Don't try to understand everything. Forget about that. If you understand what's in the letters of Renyo, which I've recommended to you and everybody else 1,000 times, you'll understand all you need to know. Really, if you understand just the letters. But this isn't in there, and that's not in there. That's not. Doesn't matter. It's enough for anybody. Because again, Amida made it like that. Okay? Okay, so let me see what else. So now, Dave chimes in, and Dave says, Conan or Chico, he says, I can totally relate to this statement, you know, that my mind feels like a bowl of spaghetti, but I can honestly tell you, he says, I can now tell you, my mind is like a bowl of spaghetti, especially this past week, okay? But now I can honestly tell you that now I have Amida in my life, and entrusting myself and my karmic destiny to him as a way of life, what I'm talking about, makes all the difference in the world to me. Now, Amida Buddha. Thank you, Amida Buddha. And you know, we're hearing from Dave a lot these days because he's felt called by Amida to create a series of posts, you know, very, very plain, you know, and really nothing complicated there at all. And, you know, they're just so compelling. Okay? Because he's giving Amida room and space to be who he needs to be in his life. Just like Shakyamuni was giving Amida room to be who he needs to be in Shakyamuni's life to this day. So that's the witness of somebody who just does the simple things. Okay? And then Kathy says, my trust in Amida being real is growing. That's wonderful, Kathy. I'd say it's a 7 or an 8. And then you say after waking after death in the Pure Land is a 10. Honestly, I don't think you have that right, Kathy, because your trust is a 7-8, but we're talking about your trust, and it's not a 10, because if it was a 10, you would be locked down, right? Like in this group by your own volition, just like just like somebody's locked down if they're in a space voyage and they're on a mission to Mars. There's no question about getting up and leaving. There's no place to go. But that hasn't been your experience. And again, there's no condemnation saying that. It's part of your karma. Okay? And so far, here's what you say. I want to experience some suffering, relief from suffering in this lifetime. I very much want that for you. And I now feel with Amida's help that can happen in this lifetime. I'm not sure which path to Amida is right for me. And he mentioned Sepho, Shin Buddhism, Pure Land Buddhism, or Amida Shu. And he says that seems to be good because I might get some psychological help, which would be very helpful to me. And of course, David Brazier, the head of the Amida Shu school or sect, he comes from the background of being a psychologist, and so that flavors his understanding and his teaching. And that he says, I didn't read that based on Honen and Shinrin teaching. Is that the same as Renyo and Shinrin's teaching? It seemed very Pure Land to me, much more than Shin Buddhism. But it's all new to me, and I did not read anything that contradicted Paul's Sangha teaching, which I really value as one of his most recent posts. I did not find anything that contradicted Paul's Sangha teaching. Okay, I'm also liking David Crumpy's videos and really resonate with the new Amida Shu book, Just As You Are. Lots is resonating, and most important, I'm coming very close to a 10 to Amida's being real and calling me. So, let me take care of all that, Kathy, okay? When you are trying to make a rocket ship, we can use a sailboat analogy. I'm trying to take a rocket ship with or without humans on it to Mars or Jupiter. It's so far away that the only way you can get to where you're going is you have to have a cybernetic mechanism, okay? Because you literally can't point the rocket at the place you want to get to and have any possible chance of hitting your target. That's the way it is. It's the same thing with sailing, particularly across a big body of water. Okay, Christopher Columbus, whoever you want to use as your example. You go out, you think the target's generally over there, and you get out of the shore. You start to get moving. Always better than staying at the shore. And as you're going, you're using whatever instruments you have, and eventually they will give you feedback and they say, you're going too far to the left right now. And so you'll make a course correction because of your instruments, because your cybernetic mechanism. And you'll go for a while more, and your mechanism will give you feedback again and say, now you're going too far to the right. Okay, and you should make another correction. And it's going to be a series of corrections all the way home to wherever your destination is. That's the way it works. It's the only way it works. You're always making an approximation. And an approximation always has to go through ever finer adjustments. So right now, you're just kind of allowing yourself to begin this journey again, and that's great. And so whenever you find something that's got Amida's name on it, whether it's from self-power Amida Buddhism or other power Amida Buddhism, it propels you forward. Now, depending on what you fancy, you'll be more or less on track. And at some point, if you stick around, okay, and don't take personally the idea that your course is not 100% right, it's going to have to be corrected at some point. So you just go. And when the instrumentation tells you, you don't take offense, and you don't take it as another reason to beat yourself up. You just make the correction and you continue to go. And again, you're going to keep getting feedback, and you'll be able to make finer and finer corrections. So right now, I don't want to bother you with too many corrections based on your opinions in these letters. Okay? Where you're at right now, I don't consider your opinions to be valuable in and of themselves. Whether you say something and it's wrong or it's right, I don't really care. What I care about is you're left the shore, you're on the boat, and you're moving generally towards your goal. And that when you come to a place where you need a correction, you're going to get one. Let me check my time here. I'm going to have to do this in the second video. Okay, just about going to finish up here. So what I would say, again, Kathy, is, you know, just leave your baggage at the door. Leave your ego junk, which is so torturous to you, on the side. I'm going to tell a quick story here to try to illustrate what I mean. It's a very famous story. The most famous producer ever, in terms of Grammys and whatnot, in the music business, is a guy named Quincy Jones. I think he's received more Grammys than anybody in history. And at some point, this was back around 1985, 86, people wanted to make some kind of a statement of solidarity and support for Africa, where people are starving to death all the time. It's just unreal. And so they decided that they were going to make a video called "We Are the World." We are the world. We are the children. We are the ones to make the difference. I forget the words exactly. So here's the interesting part about this story, and the part that's so applicable. Quincy Jones had the greatest collection of superstar singers ever assembled in one place. I don't know who goes on the top of your pantheon, but you know, Michael Jackson was there, Bob Dylan was there, Bruce Springsteen was there, Diana Ross was there, and I mean, they were packed into his studio, you know, like sardines are packed into a can. And each one of these people, each one of them, and I don't say this disrespectfully, they're a diva. They're so at the pinnacle of their profession, you know, that, you know, they have these shows about divas like Mariah Carey and Aretha Franklin and all the other ones there. And they got a bunch of them now, all jammed into this hot, sweaty, and probably a smoky studio as well. Because you can't tell a diva who smokes cigarettes you can't smoke a cigarette. You just can't do that. And yet, the whole thing went unbelievably well. And they produced this record that actually is good to listen to even today. I just happened to listen to it a month or so ago. And so people came back, and it was an amazing hit, you know, and they raised so much money, and it was a gesture of solidarity. It meant something important. Did it solve the poverty problem? No, I don't know if anything will solve the poverty problem. But it was a meaningful gesture. And a lot of people did starve to death because of the money that was raised. A lot of babies did starve to death. And so they come back to Quincy Jones, and they say to him, how in the world did you get all these, you know, bratty, okay, self-important, and yet so talented superstars in this one little room, and you got them to work together? And he says, well, what I did is I got this little sign on a piece of paper, and I put it right outside the door to the studio, and the sign said, you ready for this now, right? Check your ego at the door. I love this story. It is our story, okay? Never mind Bob Dylan's story, okay? It's our story. And you know what? They actually did that. They couldn't check their ego at the door 24/7. Forget about it. But for, you know, a day or a week to get something amazingly important done by not being jerks and bamboos, yeah, they did it. The sign was there. So leave that stuff outside the door. And they did. And because they did that one thing, you know, you got this amazing output. And of course, I'm pretty sure most of you see where I'm going with this. Kathy, just keep checking your stuff at the door. Your opinions, honestly, and you know I love you dearly, they don't mean anything. They're well-meaning opinions, but they're really ignorant opinions. So think what you think, believe what you believe. I'm not going to try to steal anything from you. But when you are going to see Amita one-on-one directly, as you've been doing lately, and it's been making all the difference in your life, just do it and leave your shoes outside the door. Like Quincy Jones said, do that for a year. Hold on to your opinions. They're yours. I'm not going to take them away from you. Do that for a year. And you see how Amita leads you along. And I promise you, if you do that every day for a year, just like I'm telling every single other person, you already know how to do it because you're a natural mystic. You got that gift already from your previous life work, seeking the higher ground. Just keep doing that. Okay? Give it a year, however many hours, minutes, seconds you have in your day that you can set aside, and find a quiet place to sit, even if it's the bathroom. Okay? Just do that. And let me know in 1 year what's happened inside of you. Okay, my friend? Okay. And I would say the same thing to everybody else. Don't make any judgments about anything, okay? I really mean that. Okay? You don't know enough to have a judgment to make. I mean, you're just not there yet. So accept that that's your truth right now. Let Amida lead you and guide you. Like we always say here, like a couple of old alcoholics, they say, let go and let God. Now there are plenty of alcoholics who are Buddhists, so they'll say, let go and let the Buddha, or let go and let Shakyamuni. And for the Pure Land Buddhists in the group, it's got to be, let go and let Amida. You know, I'm taking refuge in Amida like every day. Sometimes I formally say it, and sometimes I'm just doing it without even formally saying. But every day, you know, my whole thing is let go and let Amida. Why? Because I want to become a Buddha as soon as possible, and I don't want to pollute the operation with my own ideas. I don't give a damn about my own ideas. And it took me, in this lifetime, a lot of hopping around and a lot of experience until I got that point. And who knows how many lives in the past to get me to this life. And so I'm saying to everybody who's got a thought, a question, a comment, an opinion, leave it outside the door when you go see Amita. Of course, share your thoughts, share your opinions, share your questions, of course. But when you're just going to be alone with Amita, leave your stuff outside the door. Okay, I got more questions to answer. I see I'm already running for 1 hour and 34 minutes, so I'm going to stop here and pick it up with the next video, and I hope this is helping really everybody who's here. Okay, that's my sincere wish. Okay, talk to you guys later.